Hello everyone and welcome to the ultimate tutorial. Hi everybody! Before we jump into today's video, I just want to take a moment to give a huge shout out to one of my amazing voice actors, LPS Villas. She voiced a princess in my series called Stuck in a Fantasy Romance Novel, and I unfortunately forgot to mention her name in the credits, so I just want to make sure that she gets the recognition she deserves. Be sure to check out her channel and Instagram for more of her incredible work. Also, I've got a huge announcement to make. I'm now officially selling 4 different kinds of dresses from my LPS series, Stuck in a Fantasy Romance Novel, on my Vinted account. There's currently a limited amount of dresses available, so if you're interested, you can go check out the link in the description. So yeah, now we can go on with the video. Number 1. Start with a timeline. Write down the most important events in your story before filming anything. It gives your story structure and helps you stay focused as you go. Number 2 is create a character connection web. That's what I like to call it. So basically, figure out how your characters relate to each other. Love, betrayal, friends, rivals, it doesn't really matter. Knowing these links helps with drama and pacing later on, so that's what I basically did. I took a big piece of paper and wrote down every single thing about Stuck in a Fantasy Romance Novel that I wanted to include in the series. Okay, it's a bit dirty, but anyways, this is also a thing I really recommend, just keeping your backgrounds in a folder or something. Well, anyways, as you can see, this was basically the timeline that I created back then with the most important events, but a lot of it has changed. I think everything has changed. I did not go with the story that I wrote over here. I've changed it completely. And up here, we've got the characters, which have also been completely changed because I don't know. And yeah, this has also completely changed. This has changed. So as you can see, you don't have to go with the idea that you initially had, because it's also okay to take your creative liberties and do stuff, you know? Number 3 would be write with your audience in mind. Always think about the people watching. You're not just telling a story, you're creating an experience. So ask yourself, what would make this episode exciting to watch? What would make you gasp or want to click next episode if you were the viewer? This is where things like drama, romance, cliffhangers, or plot twists come in. Think like a viewer while you write. If a scene feels flat or predictable, how can you flip it? Number 4, don't stress about being perfect. It's super tempting to try and have everything figured out before you start writing, but honestly, you don't really need to. Some of the best moments in your story happen when you allow space for creativity while you're already in the process of writing or filming. For example, Mia is one of the most dramatic and impactful characters in Stuck in a Fantasy Romance Novel. And she wasn't even part of the original plan. I added her minutes before filming because I felt like something was missing. And guess what? She ended up becoming essential to the entire plot. So if you're writing and suddenly get a random idea, go with it. Don't wait for perfection because that'll just slow you down. Number 5. Let characters grow. You don't have to have your characters completely figured out from the start. Let them evolve naturally as the story progresses. As situations change, they'll reveal more about who they are, and that's what's making them feel real. For example, maybe your character starts off scared and unsure, but after facing challenges, they begin to fight back. Number 6. Strong characters drive everything. People don't fall in love with plots, they fall in love with characters. A good character can carry an average story, but even the most exciting plot can fall flat if the characters feel flat. Give your characters goals, fears, insecurities, and dreams. Let them make mistakes. Let them grow. Make them feel like someone your audience could actually know. And don't forget your villains. They need depth too. A good villain doesn't think they're evil, they think they're right. Ask yourself, why do they act this way? What pain or desire is driving them? The more real they feel, the more powerful your story becomes. Number 7. Conflicts equal a good story. Conflict is the heart of any good story. Without it, there's no tension, no stakes, and no reason for the audience to keep watching. If everything goes perfectly for your characters, there's nothing exciting or emotional to hold on to. There are 3 types of conflict that I usually use for my series. So there's like the emotional conflict, which usually refers to the inner struggles like fear, doubt, guilt, and so on. There could also be the relational conflict, which is all about the tension between the characters, such as betrayal, unspoken love, jealousy, and so on. Or the last one would be external conflicts, which showcase physical dangers such as poisonings, fights, and so on. Number 8. Cut out the filler. If a scene doesn't move the plot forward or develop a character, don't include it. No one wants to watch your main character eat cereal for 5 minutes. Number 9. Every scene should have a purpose. Make sure each scene either moves the plot forward, reveals characters, or builds tension. If it doesn't, rewrite it or cut it out entirely. Number 10. Show, don't tell. Don't let your characters talk too much. Instead of long monologues, show what happened using actions, flashbacks, emotions, and visuals. Number 11. Show emotions visually. Especially with LPS, you have limited expressions. So use camera angles, lighting, pacing, and music to sell the emotion. Don't rely only on dialogue. Number 12. Choose a topic that inspires you. One of the biggest reasons people lose motivation halfway through a story is because they weren't truly passionate about it to begin with. If you're not excited about the world you're building, the characters you're writing, or the genre you're working with, your audience will feel that too. When you write about something that lights a fire in you, the ideas will come naturally, and the quality will shine through. So pick a theme, topic, or genre that excites you. Hello everyone, and welcome to my beautiful table with my beautiful ring light. Anyways, before we get started with the set making stuff, I want to tell you something very important, and I want you to remember this because I've made this mistake a couple of times and I hated myself for it. Never, absolutely never make your sets first and then write your story, because you will end up not needing most of the sets you created and they will just go to waste. The first set that we're going to be making is this set over here. It's a set that I used for the 3rd episode of my series called Stuck in a Fantasy Romance Novel. It's like a forest combined with a beach. Okay, you guys, so for these sets, cardboard is going to be your best friend, almost always. How did I use this button? Did I turn it around? Because this is the thicker side over here. I think this is how I did it. Okay. Well, anyways, you're going to need cardboard. And then you're going to need stones, a lot of them. I put them in here because, yeah, it's a bit dusty because I haven't used them in a while. You need sticks. Okay. So besides rocks and sticks and a bit of cardboard, you're also going to need fake grass. In this case, I prefer the lighter version, this one, the other one. I use it for forests, and this one is for like beaches. I don't know, it just suits the sand better, I guess. And then you're going to need moss, but this is optional. You don't really need it, but it adds a nice touch. Okay, and then you need sand, quite a bit of sand, and then a lot of rocks. Preferably bigger rocks that actually look realistic. I don't know if I used this in one of the sets before. Well, anyways, you need rocks, a lot of them. I've got an entire pile of rocks over here. So yeah. Okay, so besides the things that I've mentioned over here, we're also going to need a few backgrounds. First of all, something green for the forest. I recommend getting something that looks realistic, or at least has a lot of green and leaves, because that just looks good on camera for some reason. And then I recommend getting something that looks like water. Now I've got two sides. It's been used and has a few stains on it, but anyways, we can still work with it. As you can see, we've got cardboard over here. What we're going to do is basically glue this onto the wall. Well, we're not really going to use glue. There's something called sticky tack, and that's what we're going to use. Mine is pretty dirty because it's full of sand and bits of stones and stuff, which it shouldn't, but like, that's what I'm dealing with. It just has to stick, you know? Do the same thing with the backgrounds using sticky tack and you're basically done with your base. So as you can see, I've already poured the sand onto the set, and now what we're going to do is just spread it. I've already started spreading it a bit. Okay, this should be good. Oh my god, my hands are full of sand, I hate this. Since we're done spreading the sand, we can now add the sticks to our set. Since we're done with the big rocks, we can now add the small stones. We're going to do the same thing with the grass, and don't use too much. Now then, this is optional again, but where is it? Wait a sec. This is my little plant over here, and I've used her for my sets as well. Yeah, something like this. So this was never a fake plant, this was my real plant. I haven't named her yet. So if you have name ideas, write them down in your comments. In your comments, in my comments, in my comment section. Okay, wait, and we need another plant. Oop, okay. This, she also doesn't have a name. But yeah, this one. This isn't really plant friendly, and I wouldn't really recommend it, but we're still doing it because this plant has helped me dozens of times. Okay, wait. So I don't necessarily recommend doing this, but we've basically laid the plant down. Now, she's not dying, she's fine. We just need her leaves in the shots. And I've got an LPS over here, and I think it looks pretty decent. Now we still have to cover the yellow and pink parts, like from the plants. I forgot what it's called in English. Not the vase, but you know what I mean. That thing, yeah. Well, anyways, we'll have to figure that out later. But yeah. Okay guys, so this is basically the finished result. I added a few rocks and a bit of grass because I felt like something was missing, and that's basically it. Before we move on to the next set, I'd like to mention one last thing. This set is super cheap to make. So like, I think most of you have got a plant at home. The rocks, I got them from outside. The same thing goes for the sand over here, the sticks, and the stones. The only thing that I made were these backgrounds, and this grass over here. This is fake grass. You can get it from craft stores for like €2 or something. So like, this is super cheap to make. The next set that we're going to be making is also a set from my LPS series, and it's sort of like a dungeon mixed with a prison. And it's super simple to make. You don't need a lot of accessories or materials for it. It's super simple to make and not that expensive. Okay, so what you're going to be needing for this set is actually pretty simple. First of all, you're going to be needing these kinds of rocks. Can you focus? Okay. So you're going to be needing these kinds of rocks. They should be flat and have a little bit of texture. You can also get these kinds of rocks, but these are just like accessories. So just to accessorize, and they're optional. Okay, then you're going to be needing darker paper. Preferably something with a bit of texture to it. Like mine doesn't have texture, but it looks like it does. So that's good. Then you're going to be needing metal wire. It doesn't really matter what color you use. I just used brown in this case because I think it was the only one I had at hand. And the last thing that you're going to be needing is like a Playmobil castle. You don't need an entire castle for this. I bought an entire one because I use it in basically all of my sets because I need it in general. And you're going to look for pieces with windows. I only had one at hand right now because I was too lazy to search for the other one. So yeah. So what you're going to do with your rocks is basically gluing them onto your piece of paper. I've already done that. It's just so that when the LPS move around, the rocks don't move around because that just looks horrible from my point of view. Because this is basically your base. So you need something solid. Okay, so mine is a bit bloody because I filmed on it a few times. And yeah, we're just going to get rid of the pieces that fell. Okay, that should be... Oh. Yeah, okay. So this is our solid foundation right now, okay? Now for this you're going to be using your background from earlier and basically moving it around so that you create kind of like a space. And then you've also got... Bro, this is so simple. I don't even think I have to explain all of this. Okay, so I've still got like these Playmobil castle pieces. We're just going to be sticking them to one another so they form kind of like tiny boxes because those are going to be the prison cells. If you're going to be hearing any background noise in this clip, just know that's my cat. He's here and he's doing something in my wardrobe. So anyways, as you can see, I've built this sort of prison. You can build it any way you want. That's what I love about these Playmobil playsets. And then you're just going to be putting it over here. Okay, wait, I gotta film this for you so you understand what I'm telling you. Okay, you guys, so I've turned it around so you can see it better. And I've already put the wire over here. I just used sticky tack. And from this side, you don't really see it because I've added a few rocks onto the sticky tack. And what adds a little nice touch to your set is if like your window also has metal bars. I only added 2 instead of 3 because I was quite lazy, but you get what I'm doing. So yeah. One last thing that is important for your sets in general is adding a background to the windows. And what is also essential is not placing your background like directly on the window because that looks ugly. You're going to leave a bit of space between your background and the window, so put it a bit further away. It adds a bit more depth to your sets and it looks dimensional for some reason. And yeah, you're now done with your set. There's nothing more I can teach you. Another set that we're going to be making is this Courtroom set from my LPS series again. You can go check it out if you haven't yet. And as you can see, it's super simple. The only thing that made it special is the editing and the lighting. Now then, what you're going to need for this set is actually not that much. So first of all, you're going to need any kind of seat that you can find for the LPS. Why can't you focus, camera? I got these from Slovenian families. Then you're going to need something like this. You can find these on Amazon. I spent 10 euros for 4 of these. Then you're going to need any kind of railing you can find. This is from... Oh, don't break. This is from Playmobil. I got it secondhand. And then you're also going to need tables. I DIY'd, why can't you focus? I DIY'd mine, so I'll show you later how I did it. And then, last but not least, you're going to need a background which is pretty long. Like this is most likely 1.5 meters long, like it's pretty long. This is what it looks like. I'm also going to show you how to make this. And then, at last, you're going to have to also make the floor, which is easy to make as well. Okay, so in order to make this kind of table, what you're first of all going to do is print out something similar to this. It doesn't matter what kind of material you want your table to be. What matters is that you're printing out this shape over here, okay? After you've printed that out, I want you to cut it up as such. As you can see, I've cut it and then I folded it in half because this is the top side of your table. And after you folded it, you'll notice that these two parts are connected. And we don't want that because we'll have to overlap them later on. This is basically going to be the side of your table, okay? Now then, first of all, I want you to remember, even though you've cut everything up, don't glue anything just yet. It's important to know that you still need the cardboard for your table, which goes on the inside, okay? So before gluing anything, you're going to need the cardboard pieces. Now, I don't have the best cardboard at hand, but like, I'm using this one. You're going to place your sheet of paper on top of this one. And now I don't have a pencil at hand either. You are basically going to outline your table, because that's the simplest thing to do. And I'm just now noticing how crooked this is, but anyways. Now then, you'll most likely not be able to fold your cardboard if it's this thick. Wait, why isn't my camera focusing again? Okay. Why is there hair on this thing? Is that for my cat again? Most likely. Well, anyways, you will most likely not be able to fold this type of cardboard because it's really thick, the way I did with this thicker piece of paper. But this is basically what you're going to end up with, okay? And now all you gotta do is glue them over here on the inside. We're going to glue it. So you guys, as you can see, I've glued the purple parts on the inside. And now what we're going to do is fold this part as such. And the same goes for the other side. Wait, oh. And then you are going to glue this, okay? Yeah, and that's basically your table. Ta-da! And then you can also cut these a bit because I think mine are at least a bit too tall for my table. But yeah, this is what it looks like and it's super simple to make. Okay, you guys, when it comes to your backgrounds, it's important that you mirror the second one you're printing. Because, for example, over here, for some reason, oh, this is glue on my finger, so don't mind that. On this side, over here, you can definitely see that it has weird stains on it, right? On the other side, it doesn't have that over here, okay? Which is why we have to mirror it. Because let's say that this is the edge of your second sheet of paper that you've printed. If you add this part over here, doesn't it look weird? Because it's as though these stains are cut off or they just disappear completely. And we don't want that when we overlap the backgrounds. So what we're going to do is mirror them so we can match them as such, okay? Because this looks normal. This doesn't look okay, okay? When you're cutting up your backgrounds, I want you to remember that you have to leave a bit of the normal looking paper so we have something to glue on the other one, okay? And I don't really recommend using the liquid type of glue, but I don't have anything else at hand, so yeah. Okay. And then you're going to overlap this. Okay. A bit higher and it's good. Okay. Now I'll have to cut this part a bit, but as you can see, it doesn't look completely seamless, but it does look better than putting this on a side that is already clean and then having the dots completely disappear. So yeah. You guys, I'm pretty proud of myself right now because I got another lamp that's currently helping me with the lighting over here. Because this does not suffice. Bro, I'm so bad at pronouncing stuff. Oh, okay, well anyways, because my ring light is broken, I had to fix it, so yeah. I don't have a lot of money, you guys, so this is what I'm dealing with. Well anyways, now let's start building the courtroom. Our base is of course this part over here. And it's important that you stick the edges to the table so that your floor doesn't move the entire time. And we're going to do the same thing with the background over here. So remember what I taught you when it came to that forest beach-like set? We're using sticky tack and also gluing it again to the wall. Now I'm going to use the background that I've already used in my series and not the new one that I made, because this one has accessories already. So what's also important when it comes to your set is that you print out, for example, a few things such as flags that you can glue onto the walls. Okay, so as you can see, I've put like a box behind the wall and fixed it with sticky tack so it stays in place. Now mine is unfortunately really cracked and used, so it won't really look the best. But yeah, now we can accessorize basically. So now we're officially done with the set itself. What is cool about this Playmobil railing I was talking about earlier? Wait, can you focus? Hello? Why is it? Okay. It's pretty cool because you can adjust it any way you want to. For example, instead of building 2 rows like I did over here, wait, let me lower the camera. Instead of building like 2 rows over here with a pathway in between, you can like combine the two. And what is also important about this courtroom is the fact that you also need a few documents for the judge over here. So not only a hammer, but also a few documents. You could put something like, wait, can you focus? A few books or, I don't know, letters. Wait, is it focusing? Anything you want. And also the audience should be sitting over here. So like you've got your audience over here. Here are also a few people, and yeah, you're then done with your set. The next set that we're going to be making is this ballroom, which might seem quite familiar because I've used it dozens of times in my series. And it's just as simple to make as the courtroom. I think even simpler. When it comes to making your ballroom, what is essential is basically using the same steps I taught you earlier. So we glued the walls the same way we glued them for the courtroom, and the same thing applies to the floor as well. Both are then attached with sticky tack to your table or to the wall. And then all you gotta do is just accessorize. And the ballroom mainly consists of people, so you're going to need a lot of LPS to fill it. And what you can add to your ballroom is maybe a piano, musical instruments in general, maybe a few tables, flowers, drinks, it doesn't really matter. So as you can see, I've accessorized the ballroom. It mainly consists of a few drinks and seats, a piano and a few drinks, nothing special. And what makes the ballroom in the end special is just the way you will edit your video. The last sets that I will be talking about in this video have been used, I think, dozens of times in my videos, and I'm absolutely in love with them, but unfortunately they're not as easy to make as they might seem. So I think the majority of you have been asking me how to make these sets in particular because you've seen them quite often in my series. And the answer is that they're actually DIY miniature kits that you can buy online. So they're also available on Amazon, AliExpress, Vinted, and eBay. Now I'm not sure about other sites, but I usually buy them from AliExpress and Amazon. And if I find a good deal on Vinted, I might get one. And yeah. If you're a beginner, I really recommend starting out with a set that doesn't have a lot of plants, because plants are quite difficult to make and you'll get tired of them really fast. So what you can expect to get in the set is basically pre-cut wood, which you're going to be using later on, and instructions that tell you exactly how to do certain stuff for your set. Now this is a set I would definitely not recommend getting because it has a ceiling. And every set that has a ceiling or a roof will in general not be the best fit for you, because if you're using your hands or sticks to move your LPS, it's like in the way. You won't be able to film anything. Unlike the other set, this set, although it has a ceiling, you can remove it. So you can definitely use this for your LPS. I recommend it completely. This set over here is definitely not beginner friendly. First of all, it has a lot of plants and a ceiling, which you won't really be able to remove that easily when it comes to filming. So your LPS won't be able to be inside of your set. So just know, if you're buying this sort of set, it will most likely be in the background somewhere or just for decoration purposes when filming. Okay you guys, do you see the light that is shining right now through the window? This is the light that you're going to need when it comes to filming your scenes. This is one of the sets that I used for the third episode of Stuck in a Fantasy Romance Novel. I usually just place my sets right in front of the light that I'm currently using, and as you can see, your sets are already starting to look a lot more dynamic and cinematic. Remember, the more you play with your light, the more shadows you have in your shots, the more cinematic it will end up looking like. Also, a thing that I recommend is not gluing your walls, like from the sets in general, or the furniture, because you can use it for other sets as well, and it's very practical for when you're actually filming any scenes that you have. Your raw footage will most likely look something like the clip I showed you earlier, but if you edit it correctly, you will definitely be able to achieve something like this. So yeah. Now for more normal looking scenes, I use only one source of light, and that being this ring light that I bought for like 12 bucks off of Amazon. And what I always do is, I do not like when other sources of light are interfering with my filmmaking, so I always make my room completely dark so as to not disturb the area that I've created over here. This rule applies to absolutely every single one of the scenes that I film for Stuck in a Fantasy Romance Novel. It's the same process over and over again. The room is dark and the only source of light is my ring light. The rest is done through editing. None of these shots would look as good as they look if I didn't edit them beforehand. Okay guys, now I'm basically going to walk you through CapCut and how to edit your videos. Now as you can see, the raw footage for many of these clips is like horrible before you start editing it. And this applies to every single one of the clips that I filmed for my series. They all initially looked terrible. And don't worry about it because we can fix it through editing. And I'm going to show you one example and just tell you a bit about the stuff that you can use to make your videos look better. So yeah, we're going to be starting with this clip over here, which I filmed earlier. The first thing that you're going to do is click on adjust. Adjust is going to be your best friend when you're going to edit your videos. And then you're going to start with the temperature. The temperature has always got to be cold because, I don't know, for some reason colder temperature just makes your videos look a lot sharper, a lot better, cleaner. If you use the opposite for the temperature, which is like warm temperature, you can use that as well, but I'd only recommend it for like beaches and stuff, but I usually stick to the colder version of the temperature. Yeah. And then you're also going to use Vignette? Yeah, I have no idea what that's called. Add a bit of it because you don't need that much. Too much is ugly. And if you use the opposite, you can definitely use that, but like, it's just not practical for this clip over here. It just does not match the vibe that we're going for. The next thing that you're going to do is just play around with the hue over here a bit. You can choose a greener one or a pinker one. And I usually opt for pink. I don't know why, it just makes my videos look better, but you can also use green. It also depends on the vibe you're going for. Anyways, what you're also going to use is these graphs over here. I love them to death. They're amazing. They've saved me so much time. I want you to click on this blue button over there, and then you can start playing around with the graphs as well. You can either make your videos a lot yellower or bluer, depending on what you're going for. In this case, I want to make it just a bit blue because it matches the vibe that I'm going for. And don't use too much of it, don't exaggerate, because it will end up looking bad. Okay, and now we can click on this red button over here, and this is basically the graph that will adjust the redness of your video. You can make it a lot bluer, a lot redder, depending on what you want. In this case, I want to get rid of the redness, so I'm just going to adjust it a tiny bit. Okay, now let's see what we've done up till now, so you can see like the difference. This was your original clip, and this is how we've currently edited it, but we're not done just yet. These are just the basics, because we've still got to adjust a lot more. Okay, so over here you've also got a section called highlights, and you can definitely also use that in your videos. It just makes the whites pop a bit more, and that's basically all it does. It looks quite great in your videos. Shadows are also important in your video. It can make the blacks pop or make your video a lot whiter, just faded looking, and I just want the blacks to pop a bit more. The same thing goes for these ones over here, like the whites and blacks over here. They also just adjust how dark or how light you want your blacks or whites to be perceived. And yeah, that's basically their function. Now, you don't have to do this for every single video that you're going to post, but you can play around with the contrast button a bit. It makes your videos look better. And the saturation usually fits in most of your videos, but if you want it to pop even more, then make it a bit more saturated. But don't exaggerate, because it will look bad. Sharpening your videos is also important, but don't use the full extent of this function because it will make your videos look way too sharp, and you don't really want that because it will look bad. I'm not sure if you can see it, but it's made the clip a lot harsher looking and a lot sharper, and I don't really like that look. Making your video look a bit softer just makes it look better for some reason. So add just a tiny bit of it. And then you can also use Brilliance to brighten your videos a bit. That's basically all it does. And what I always like to do as well is use the filters. Now I unfortunately do not have the pro version of CapCut because bro, it costs way too much. Okay, I'm not paying 200 euros a year. You'll most likely have to just work with the free filters that you've got available over here. I've saved a few, and as you can see, everything is basically pro nowadays. Like, what is this? It didn't used to be like this. Anyways, where was I at? Ah, yeah. So basically, look around these filters for a bit and just see what you like. You can use the full extent of it or adjust it to your liking, and I think we're done. So I hope I could teach you something new and could be a bit of help. Editing is not really that complicated, and I also hope I could answer your question, but if you have any follow-up questions, just write them down in the comment section. And now we've almost reached the end of this video. I'll be answering all of your questions regarding filming or more personal questions now, so let's get started! So apparently we're going to be making suits now. And also thank you so much for the compliments, I'm really happy you liked my suits. I personally used a super fluffy modeling clay, which is also used in cloud slimes. It doesn't stain your LPS and it's pretty cheap. I got mine for 50 cents on discount, and yeah. If you don't have any sculpting tools, you can also use brushes, but when you choose your brush, make sure that it's pretty small and has a sturdy tip, because you'll need it to move your clay around quite a lot and shape it. Water is going to act as your glue, and choose any base you'd like. You should flatten your clay as much as possible, and it should be about this thick. Now I want you to cut it up as shown, and then use the piece you've just cut out and cut the edges of it before molding it to the LPS. When pressing the clay against the mold, make sure it lines up perfectly in the front at the pause. Make sure you're pressing very gently across your entire mold. Use any kind of round object to do the following step. Gently try connecting the lines above. Make sure they line up at the edges because they have to sort of build like a symmetrical circle. You're going to use a brush and gently press against the edges that are currently sticking out. Use any kind of sharp object to cut around the neck of your new suit, because it doesn't have to be that long, it's not a turtleneck, it's a suit. Use a wet brush to clean up the edges. Remember, gently press against your clay. If the clay around the neck area is way too much, you can gently press against it and spread it out evenly. For the next step, you're going to flatten a smaller piece of clay, which is going to be the collar. Using a pair of scissors, you can cut out a small triangle. Cut your triangle into 2 even smaller pieces and try making them as symmetrical as possible. Lay the triangles flat on top of your suit and make sure they form a circle. Gently roll your brush on top of the clay in order to mold the clay to the body. Use water to clean up the edges you want, and you're done with your suit. So I've said this before, but I'm going to mention it again. I get most of my props from AliExpress, Amazon, or secondhand, for example from Vinted for a good price. And all of my backgrounds, I usually just print them with my printer. So I just go on Google and search what I like most, and I just print it and make them myself, basically. So I'm a person who reads quite a lot, and I usually get inspired by the books I read, or maybe by the series that I'm watching. And that's exactly what actually happened with Stuck in a Fantasy Romance novel. I was just so in love with this manga type of genre, web novel, you know, like being stuck in a fantasy novel. You know what I mean? Those who know. Anyways, it all started with like a small obsession of that genre and somehow turned later on into an LPS series, which I did not plan on making, but it somehow just happened. And yeah. And the next question is, if I could be transported into my LPS series, who would I want to be and why? And I definitely would want to be Mia Langley, and I know some of you might not agree because you all hate her, but I love her character. She was one of the first villains that I actually felt like she was somehow a real person. I don't know. Some of you might not agree, okay? But like, I just liked her motivations throughout the series a lot because she did everything just because she wanted to receive her mother's love, which never happened. And I don't know, that's so sad, you know? Like, I don't know, I just liked her character, and if I could be her in the series, I definitely would want to change her fate, just like Nicole changed Vivian's fate. And yeah. So since we've already had the first question, I'm just going to skip it and move on to the next one, and that being how I even come up with my characters. So before even writing, I usually already have an idea about how my character is supposed to be. For example, let's take Vivian. From the beginning, I knew that she was going to be a very strong female character. I wanted her to be very feminine and vulnerable at times as well. Um, what I also wanted was for her to be logical as a character. For example, if she was in a dangerous situation, she wouldn't be able to just pick up a sword and kill 10 soldiers because that's just unrealistic, okay? She's a civilian from the real world, and how would she even know how to fight against trained men, okay? Anyways, that's why I didn't rely on the physical strength, but more on the emotional one. I made Vivian strong in her own way. And I also made her like strategic because I wanted her to be strong without having to be like physically strong. I didn't want my character to be defined by physical strength. And I usually come up with these things just throughout the story. The more I navigate my plot in stories in general, I just find out more about my characters, and that's what shapes them in general. It's more of like a vibe that I'm going for, honestly. This scene over here was the most difficult to edit and film because the background that you're seeing is not printed, it's a TV. And because the TV was quite high up, I had to somehow stack boxes on top of chairs and then the rocks that I used in this scene. And it was very uncomfortable to film in general and quite dangerous because I felt as though that rock could like tumble at any time. So yeah. So when it comes to creating like ideas for my series, I guess I just go by what I'm interested in. And I wouldn't really call my ideas unique because like maybe they're unique for LPS tube. But if you're like someone who reads a lot of novels, watches animes, isekai and being stuck in a romance novel isn't really unique. It's like something very generic and basic. And yeah, I don't know what I wanted to say with this. I don't remember. What was the next question? So when it comes to creating scripts for my series, I think I can actually show you one of my scripts. The only problem is that every single scene is kind of essential to the plot and might include spoilers. But like, let me show you something. Maybe I can find something. Wait. Okay guys, this is my iPad, hello. I tried looking for a scene that wasn't really including any spoilers, but I couldn't really find anything, so I cut up a scene a bit. Anyways, this is one of the scenes for episode 3 of Stuck in a Fantasy Romance Novel, and as you can see, I always start with a setting and name the number of the scene. So for example, setting another ball, scene 1. And then I only describe like the simple actions, such as Mia watches from afar as Vivian enters the ballroom. I don't really describe anything. And then I usually always have in brackets the emotions that my LPS are supposed to express in that very moment. It also, I hope at least, it also makes it easier for voice actors to actually understand what kind of emotions are supposed to be portrayed in each of these lines. And yeah, that's usually how my scripts look like. I always write them on my iPad, it's a lot easier. And yeah. And the last question is, which series is my favorite to film? And at the moment, it's definitely Stuck in a Fantasy Romance Novel, but in the future, it will definitely be Car Racers, because it will include a lot of car racing scenes, which I'm super excited to film, you guys. Oh my god, my chair. Anyways, I'm super excited to film it. I cannot wait for summer, okay? I cannot wait to finish all of my exams and finally be done with school and film. I cannot wait. Oh my god, the table is moving. Wow. So let's start with the first question. Wait, how many languages? Wait, what was that question again? Oh my god, you guys, I'm sorry. I haven't slept that well tonight because I had homework to do. Wait. Okay, the question was if I speak French or more languages. And I think I'm going to start with the easiest one. I can obviously speak English quite fluently, I think. Apoi avem Româna, care este limba mea maternă. Danach kann ich auch Deutsch sprechen. Das war die zweite Sprache, die ich seit meiner Kindheit gelernt habe. Aber ich habe einen fetten Akzent, weil ich meine Erstrolle. Und deshalb behaupten viele, dass ich einfach aus Russland komme, was überhaupt nicht stimmt. Je peux parler en français un peu, mais le chose seulement que je peux dire en français, c'est voulez-vous coucher avec moi? Y yo puedo hablar en español un poco también, pero mis profesores en los primeros años de español fueron muy terribles, porque yo no puedo hablar en español muy bien. And that was it. Oh my god, I'm actually good at this. You know, I've actually had terrible professors, both in French and Spanish. I want to say English, but that's not true. Both in French and not English, in Spanish and French. Okay, and I'm somehow not that bad at this, okay? I am quite impressed. Some of you might not agree, but I'm quite proud of myself. Oh my god, no, don't break it. Oh, what am I even doing? Wait, can you stand there? Oh my god, you're so pretty. Oh. So the next question was, who's your favorite character in the series you're currently working on? And honestly, in Stuck in a Fantasy Romance Novel, it definitely is Mia Langley. As said, some of you might not agree, but I love her. She's such a lovable character. Okay, no, actually, you won't agree with this, but I love her. She is so, I don't know, so precious. So for my non-Romanian speaking folks out there, let me just translate. How many LPS do you have in total, and which short hair LPS was your first short hair? And I don't really know how many LPS I have in total, but I'm pretty sure I have more than 800 at the moment because I've been buying too much. And my first short hair, I actually do not know. I don't remember at all. Like, I remember getting my first fake short hair cat, but like real short hair cats? I have no idea, you guys. I'm sorry. Also, I don't know why, but I decided to change my outfit because I didn't like the way it looked. So yeah, I enjoyed this handmade jacket for LPS made by me. And yes, I'm very proud of it. Anyways, back to the table. So you guys, if you follow me on Instagram, you might know that I asked you guys a question, that being what you're even interested in or what kind of other questions you have for me that you'd like me to include in the video. And someone asked me about the equipment I use for voice acting. And you guys, I invest money in my sets and LPS. I don't invest money particularly in a good camera or a good source of light. I use my phone to record every single one of the lines. I usually, in case I don't like the way I sound in the original footage, I do voiceovers. Meaning that I just take my phone, put it almost directly next to my mouth, and speak. Because, I don't know, the audio footage is quite clear. You don't really hear any background noise, as long as your windows are closed and your family are not making a mess. So yeah, that's basically all the equipment I use. My phone is basically here doing the editing, the filming, the voice acting, like everything. And yeah. So you guys, I guess we finally reached the end of this video. I really hope I could help you guys, because honestly, I didn't really know how to do most of the stuff at the beginning of my YouTube channel, like when I started it. Because first of all, there weren't a lot of tutorials talking about how to even make sets for your LPS that much. And I really wanted to have like cinematography looking like sets. So what I did was basically analyze the videos of like big LPS tubers and see what they could have used in their videos. And I really hope I could help you like understand a bit of what goes on behind the scenes and what you can use and do. Yeah, I guess that's all I wanted to say. Yeah. Anyways, hope you enjoyed this video and see you next time. Bye!